The key to sustainable improvement lies in integration, not isolation. The most effective school leaders understand that closing achievement gaps requires not a collection of disconnected initiatives, but an integrated system where curriculum alignment, high-quality Tier 1 instruction, and data-driven practices work together within an asset-based culture. When these components operate in isolation, progress stalls. When they function as a cohesive whole, transformation occurs. So let's talk about the mistakes that we make as administrators. You see, school leaders often fall into predictable traps when pursuing improvement. And in full transparency, I want to let you know, I myself have fallen into a couple of these traps. So the first trap I want to talk about is what I call the initiative overload syndrome, where we continuously implement new programs without allowing sufficient time for any to take root. As John Hattie noted, it's not the programs, it's the implementation of the programs that matters. The second trap that we fall into is we frequently address symptoms rather than causes, focusing on test scores while neglecting underlying issues such as curriculum misalignment, inconsistent core instruction, or gaps in teacher capacity. The third trap that many leaders fall into is what I term compliance cultures, where data primarily serves as evaluative rather than developmental tools. So when teachers perceive data as something used against them rather than for improvement, defensive walls go up and authentic engagement disappears. So how do we overcome or avoid these traps? Well, it requires us to have a mindset shift. You see, successful transformation begins with an asset-based approach. So rather than viewing underperforming schools through a deficit lens, effective leaders identify existing strengths upon which to build. As Zaretta Hammond reminds us in her work, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. This shift requires viewing curriculum alignment, Tier 1 instruction, and data practices not as separate initiatives, but as interconnected components of one cohesive system. When teachers understand the why behind these practices, that they're about creating access, opportunity, and excellence for all students, commitment replaces compliance. So that mind shift will lead us to an integrated method, because research consistently shows that improvement happens when these practices work together. The first practice is aligned curriculum serves as the foundation. Regular gap analysis ensures that what is taught aligns with both standards and assessments in terms of content and cognitive demand. The second practice is high-quality Tier 1 instruction, because it will occur when curriculum is aligned. Therefore, when the teacher is delivering high level of Tier 1 instruction, student outcomes improve. Clear instructional non-negotiables, targeted coaching, and collaborative learning communities strengthen core teaching. The third practice is data-driven practices that provide the feedback loop. You see, when teachers collaboratively analyze relevant data, they can adjust instruction based on student needs rather than assumptions. The fourth practice is around leadership, because leadership that fosters coherence between these components through consistent messaging, effective resource allocation, and robust support structures will improve student outcomes. So as Richard Riley noted, when standards, curriculum, and assessments are aligned, education moves from a disjointed enterprise to a coherent one. So how are we going to move from insight to action? Well, I want to challenge you with the following items and questions. The first is to audit your current approach. So are your curriculums, instruction, and assessment practices working as isolated initiatives or as integrated systems? Number two, create cross-functional teams that include curriculum specialists, instructional coaches, and data experts to ensure alignment and consistency across all areas. I want to challenge you with number three, to establish clear, measurable goals that focus on implementation quality, not just on outcomes. And the fourth one is to invest in job-embedded professional learning that helps teachers understand how these components work together. So as you reflect on those four areas, let me ask you a question, one that I want you to think about and to work on. What one step will you take this week to move from fragmented initiatives to a cohesive approach that truly closes achievement gaps?